All right, this week on Camera Talk, due to some emails I got and some friends of mine who have been asking, how can I get into the world of Leica? It's expensive, right? It's expensive. I don't have the money for that kind of thing. Well, the way I kind of got into it myself was going through used equipment. And not only used equipment, but stuff that's a little outdated, I guess you would say. So this week I'm going to be talking about the M9. Now, the M9 is Leica's first full-frame digital camera, and it's 12 years old now. It's 2021. This came out in 2009. 2009. So that's what we're going to talk about this week, is the M9, and how you can get into the world of Leica. The M mount, anyway, into the M line, which is their kind of premium top of the line stuff. And you know about top of the line stuff, right? So come on down with me. We're going to bring back Leica Man in Vietnam. And we're going to talk about the M9. Right? So you're going to join me with that? This is my son Dylan, by the way. He's usually the star of the show anyway. So let's get into it.
Here I am, Vietnam. Rain is always coming down.
This is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott. And as the intro said, this week I'm bringing back a little guest speaker, Leica Man in Vietnam. That's right. Why am I bringing back Leica Man? Well, I'm going to be focused this week on my M9. And I know, for those who follow the channel, yes, I've done a video on my M9 and M10, but it was kind of more of an overview, usability type thing. But this week, I'm thinking about, answering some questions that I had from some people who were asking, how could they get into the world of Leica. It tends to be a little bit on the expensive side.
No shit, Sherlock!
And I said, well, here at Modesty Photography, it's all about saving you money, working with budgets, and, doing, the best we can to, satisfy those in the photography world of getting what they need. And so, if somebody really wants to break into the Leica M system in particular, which tends to be the most expensive line, then, going used is really the way to go. And, the M9 here was my very first Leica camera, and same thing, I bought this used myself, a couple of years ago, and I bought it for $2,000. That a couple of years ago may have been, oh my God, $2,000. Well, guess what? Today, it's roughly about $2,000. If you look on eBay, it could go up to $4,000 actually for those who really take care of the camera and they're in box condition and whatnot. But you know what? When I got this too, it came with. Let me put this on here. It came with this little beauty, and this is the Voigtlander, Nocton Classic SC. It's a 35mm 1.4, and so it came with came with this lens right on it. It came with 2 batteries, not just one, but 2. Came with an SD card. And the guy who sold it actually left a bunch of pictures on his SD card. Nothing exciting. I was hoping, maybe some interesting photo shoots with his girlfriend or whatever, but. Nah, it was mostly just him taking pictures of himself in the mirror. Nothing exciting. But anyway, the Voigtlanders are an excellent alternative to Leica lenses. Cosina makes some great ones. I have the 35 1.4. I have the 40 1.2, and I have a 75 1.8, and they're great lenses. Actually, I took some photos of Dylan just today with my M9 using the 75. I'll show you show you some pictures of that too. But anyway, I bought this, you know, and it was, you know, used. It was in great condition. You know, for those who know about the build of a Leica M camera, you know, they're all metal. There's some plastic in here, you know, the buttons are plastic and whatnot. You know, some plastic covering here to protect the body from the ring, but everything else is magnesium alloy and brass. And as you can see, well, you can't see from there, but I've got some brassing already happening along the edges and the corners of the top and bottom plate here, as well as my thumbs up. So again, something that helps to hold on to the camera. But used is the way to go. You know, I try to buy everything used. The only thing brand new in photography that I've really purchased was my Canon M50, which is what I shoot this with, shoot my videos with. But it was only $500 or almost $600. You know, again, for a brand new camera that shoots video, shoots 4K. You know, it's super light. The EOS or EFM system is a super little system, but that's got nothing to do with this video. So my M9, again, some of the reasons why, you know, I would choose, if I were you, to go with an M9 to kind of break into the system is, you know, besides cost, is the fact that it's a full frame, and it was Leica's first full frame digital camera to come out, because they had an M8 and an M8.2, which was a APS-H size sensor. So it's a crop sensor. It's a 1.33 times crop. So it's, you know, it's nowhere near a full frame. So, you know, with the M8, you also had you had to use filters, UV filters and infrared filters and whatnot to, you know, make it work and whatnot. So anyway, you know, if you're going to use like a 35 millimeter, it's best to use it on a full frame, because you're getting a 35 millimeter, you know, field of view, you know, versus being cropped down and whatnot. It's a whole different ballgame for those who know, you know, the cropped sensors that are out there in the Canon and Sony and Nikon and Fuji and Olympus and Panasonic world and so on and so on. Full frame is nice to have. So anyway, so 2009 this thing came out. So this is, again, almost a 12-year-old camera. You know, brand new when this came out was $8,000 brand new in 2009. So if you know, do the cost conversion to 2021 dollars, that's almost 10 grand. It's actually over 10 grand is what you would pay equivalent today for this. So again, you look on eBay, they're roughly $1,500 to $4,000 in that range, but that's eBay. You know, eBay is a little pricey anyway. But if you go shopping at used camera stores or at rental places, are great. You know, every year, every couple of years, they, you know, these rental places like to kind of clean out their old inventory and bring in new stuff. So you may find an M9 that was a rental that you could pick up for a great bargain. There's somebody, I forget his name, somebody on eBay, on YouTube, that I saw that he picked one up for $999, you know, $999 from a rental place, and that's a good deal. But, you know, again, just depends how lucky you are and what you get out of these things. Now, you know, some of the little you know, quirks of the M9 to be aware of. One was the sensor. You know, everybody always worries about that sensor, but it's also the sensor that attracts a lot of people to the M9, because, you know, the M8 and M9 used CCD CCD sensor, which is you know, again, popular for the people who believe that it's a better technology than the CMOS. You know, and a CCD is a changed coupling device is what it stands for. CMOS is a complementary metal oxide semiconductor, you know, what the CMOS stands for. But they're different technologies. You know, the CMOS is a more economical production of a sensor for the companies. The CCDs are more expensive to run. But the M9 ran into a bit of an issue with many of their sensors suffering from what they labeled or nicknamed digital rot, and they look nasty. You know, one of the problems was they thought it was you know, something contaminating the sensor itself. But after some careful investigation by some pretty smart people out there, they dug into it and they found out that the covering on the sensor itself was not coated. And when it's not coated, just like anything that's not coated, it's susceptible to the environment and anything else. So, so there were probably many different reasons for the sensors going bad. And, you know, when they discovered this in 2014, you know, they started replacing them. And they said, hey, send them in, we'll replace them for you. And, you know, after a while, they gave up on that program and said, all right, we'll replace them for you, but for $1,600. And then finally they stopped that too. But you can still if you pick up a M9 that has a sensor problem, you can get one from LDP, I think their name is, in New Jersey. They still will replace them for you. I don't know the cost off the top of my head, but they will. They'll take care of the sensor for you. But I was lucky again to get one that already had a sensor, had the sensor replaced, and again it came with this nice lens, came with extra batteries, SD card, everything else. So I was just good to go. But you know, again, the M9, you know, the M9 is you know, a great little camera for the fact that it's rugged. If you've never held a Leica rangefinder before, you know, whether it's digital or film, you know, again, for economic purposes, if you want something even cheaper than these, you know, break into the film if you're into film. I'm too lazy for that, so I'm pretty much a digital guy. I need digital technology because I could just take this out, stick it in my computer, and I'm good to go. I don't want to be worried about developing film and having to scan it and everything else and get it on my computer that way. Way too much work. So digital is the thing for me. But again, the M9, when it came out, you can find different versions. This is the straight up M9. They have a M9P, which, you know, no red dot on the front, has a screw. It has the name Leica and everything up on the nameplate here, or on the top plate. They had the titanium, M9 titanium. Again, expensive. But it's just for the look. You know, it's exactly the same camera, but it's, you know, the body and everything's done in titanium. The economical one was in 2012. They came up with an ME, which just means that they had no USB port, which is in the back here. I would recommend not using it anyway. It wasn't the greatest feature, which is why they did away with it. So don't even worry about that. But hey, if you get a collector's version, because it's, you know, it's got a USB port on it. They also had no frame line switch, which, you know, I don't know anybody who uses it, and they did away with it on the M240, but they actually brought it back again on the M10 here. And you know, the purpose of it is when you're, you know, framing something up, you know, you can use this to see the frame lines, and I'll show you what those look like. to determine, you know, maybe I should switch lenses to something else. It would cover the area better. You know, but most people, again, don't use them. They just figure they know what they're seeing with their own eyes. But you know, the frame lines, for those, again, who are new to Leica or to rangefinders and don't know, you have three different sets of frame lines. You have a 35, 135, you have a 28-90, and you have a 50 and 75 millimeter. So 3 different sets of 2 frame lines to help with, because, you know, again, the technology, for those who don't know, you know, your SLRs or mirrorless or DSLRs focus through the lens. Come through here, you look through your rangefinder, and voila. Versus a rangefinder itself, did I say focus through the rangefinder? Focus through the lens, look through your viewfinder is what I should say, and then focus that way. A rangefinder, you're looking through this window, which is your viewing port, obviously, and then there's a little window over here, which is your actual rangefinder. So each one of these is creating a rectangle through the viewfinder here, and when those rectangles overlap and match each other so that they're perfectly in line, that's when you're in focus. That's how a rangefinder works, in the simplest way I can explain it to you anyway, in that regard. So that is that. You know, again, a lot of people kind of struggle with that at first. You know, it takes a while to get used to, as far as you know, as far as focusing and things go with a rangefinder. But once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty good. Now, again, the thing that differentiates this from the M240 and the M10 and possibly the M11 as it's coming out is, you know, those cameras all have live view, which through the back screen, when you have a subject up in front, you're taking a picture, you can actually go to live view and see, you know, what you're getting. You can focus in that way too. But the M9 is kind of the last of the true rangefinders, so you don't get that option. You must look through the viewfinder and match it up this way. Speaking of the rear view, the rear LCD screen is better than the M8, that's for sure. But if you compare it like to the M10, you know, you can see size difference. You know, this is only 2.5 inches, 230,000 pixels. So the resolution isn't that great, but it's, again, it's usable, barely. But again, it's okay. It's got 6 buttons. Sorry, 5 buttons on the left side. The 6th one is on the right side. So you have play, delete, ISO, info, set, and menu are your options. Versus, again, when we moved up, like the M10 here has 3 buttons. But, you know, again, it's not an M10 video, so who cares about that? What other features are on here? You have a turning wheel to be able to zoom in on your pictures when you hit the play mode, and you can see what you've taken a picture of, and zoom in on it. What else? It has talk about shutter. You know, again, for those new to rangefinders, there's no auto, you know, autofocus or anything. It's all manual focus. So the A on the shutter stands for, well, it could stand for auto, I guess, or aperture mode. So if you leave it in A and you set your apertures, let's say this is a 35 1.4. You set your aperture at 1.4. If you leave it on A, the camera will determine the shutter speed and ISO for you. Now, speaking of ISO,
the wonderful world of Cameraland.
You know, again, the M9 was better than the M8, but the M9 still, like compared to the M10, is 2009 technology. So it ranges from 160 up to 2500, but it's not the greatest resolution and result at 2500. So most shooters will opt for around 800 for ISO and leave it there. So that's that. It actually goes down below 160. It's a pull 80, they call it. But it's kind of a fake ISO. So anything you want to fake out the system is not going to be the best result anyway. So don't even bother going there. What else can I tell you? The bottom plate. Just like the old film cameras, you know, you twist and pull off and there's your bottom plate. Your battery goes here. Your SD card slots in here. There's a little indent for the tripod mount. One of the complaints people have with this, though, if you have something heavy, if you have a heavy lens on there, like one of the Noctilux 75 or something, they're very heavy. So this little screw here is only in the bottom plate, so it's not the most secure in the world. Versus, again, the M10, the screw actually goes up into the body of the camera itself, so the base plate just has a hole around the screw. So that's something to be aware of. You know, if your faceplate or bottom plate is off, there's a little bump here, or a little nub, I guess, that pushes the button here and tells the camera that your your bottom plate is actually inserted and installed so that it'll let you take pictures. If not, you can't take any photos. So that is that. Shutter speeds, you know, if you're going to go manual, shutter speeds go from decent shutter speed. You know, the on and off switch, M10 just has an on off. The M9 has single, continuous, and timer, self timer. So you have a timer of 2 seconds or 10 or 12 seconds, what's on there. What am I going to say? The back display, what do I want to show you on this? Like the info. The info screen is kind of interesting. You know, the battery, the SD card are kind of, you know, instead of just a little picture of a battery with the bars on it like most cameras, you know, it kind of gives you this, you know, almost like a fuel gauge in your car kind of thing look to it. Tells you how many pictures are remaining, the shutter speed, which is which we got it on auto. So if I put it to like to 500, it'll say, you know, 1/500. The lens is uncoded and whatnot. So it's, again, it's got character. I mean, this is a very different camera than the M10, which is more of a modern type get-go. So as usual, let me take a picture of the end of the lens, because I always, you know, for those who remember my my standard operating procedure, I always take a picture of the nameplate on the end of my Canon M50, and then show you some samples from there. So so let me do that. Let me see if I can get in as focused as possible on that. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. That was something I just thought of too. The sound. of these things is quite quite charming, I would say. You know, again, vintage. You know, and anybody into, you know, Leica stuff, especially old stuff, tend to be also into vintage things. You know, which is why I have, you know, 5 vintage Leica lenses. Actually, all these up here are vintage SLR lenses and whatnot. But the Leica lenses themselves, I have, you know, my watches over here. I have a Omega watch from 1963. I have a Rolex from 1945. You know, I love vintage stuff. My Mercedes SL380 is, or 380 SL is from 1983. And, you know, I like old stuff. A lot of people like old stuff. People always comment on old stuff, you know, as opposed to something new. You drive down the street in a brand new Mercedes, people go, hey, yeah, it looks just like his Beamer and just like that, you know, Toyota over there and everything. But you go down the street in my Mercedes and people always stop me at the light and they're like, hey, what year is that? That's pretty cool, blah, blah, blah. So vintage stuff is cool in that regard. So, but anyway, listen to this old school sound. Wow, sounds like it's the film is rewinding or something. So that's pretty cool, I would say. Oh, I see my screen is shut off. So listen to the M10 just to get the sound difference. You know, it's not get zzz, you know, hear that zip sound that you do with the M9. Now for size comparison too, that's the other beauty of I keep touching the window. The beauty of this setup as well. I mean, it's 585 grams with the battery in it, which is 1.29 or 1.3 pounds. So it's, you know, it's not super light, but it's not super heavy either. It just feels good in your hand. But this is, you know, as I said, this is a 35 1.4, all right? So you see the size of that sitting on the camera, 35 1.4. This is my Sony, because it is a heavier, let me switch hands here. This is my Sony A7R II with a Zeiss Distagon 35 1.4, and you know, look at the size difference of these. You know, the body itself is roughly about the same width. You know, you're not saving anything there, but it's got this big hand grip on the side too, so it's taking up space that way. But look at the lens difference. 35 1.4 on here. This is the 35 1.4 on here. Night and day difference.
Size does not matter. It's what you know how to do with it.
So that, it's kind of heavy. That in itself is another reason why going with this is kind of cool. And that's another aspect of it too, the cool aspect. You know, this is the fact that you're walking around with a Leica. It's kind of cool. You know, of course, it's some people say, "Oh, that's arrogant and everything." No, I'm not talking about that kind of cool. I'm talking about cool, like people look at that camera and go, "Wow, that's pretty cool." You know, that kind of cool. So anyway, that is pretty much everything I could think of. Now back to the CCD, I was going to say too, back to the CCD sensor. You know, when Leica was considering the kind of look that they wanted with their CCD sensors, you know, they thought, you know, doing a survey around the, you know, with all the engineers, you know, what film look did you guys like? And Kodachrome seemed to be the winner of the day. So so Kodak, of course, was one of the designers of the of the CCD, and so they tried to develop the CCD to produce a Kodachrome-like look to it. And some people say, well, the reds, you know, reddish, the orangish kind of stuff are a little heavy. But again, in post-production, you know, you can tone those back and whatnot. But hey, let me show you some, so besides obviously the picture of the faceplate, let me show you some pictures of Dylan that I did this morning with this, and I had a 50mm Summilux on there. So here's pictures of Dylan with the Summilux. And here were some, you know, pictures that I had done earlier when Dylan was much younger in the back garden, because we're on lockdown now, so we're not allowed to go wandering outside. So, because I'm not in, it's not my backyard, it's the, you know, the complex I live in has this big fountain garden thing. So still they don't like us to go wandering outside right now with this Delta variant, you know, making its way around Vietnam. So I'm just going to show you some pictures of us in the garden with using the M9 and color in black and white. And that was pretty much, I think, all I can think of to tell you about the M9. Again, if you're looking to break into Leica, you know, and you don't want to go out buying a brand new M10 or M10R with its big monster. Oh, it's another thing too. I was about to say, monster sensor is 40-something megapixels. This is 18.5 megapixels. So the file sizes are nice to deal with. They don't, you know, clutter up your the hard drive on your computer or anything else. Same with the M10, just a straight up M10. It's only 24 megapixels. So the M10R is nice, but it's, you know, again, that's a big file to be dealing with. It's kind of like my A7R2 is a 42 megapixel as well. They're nice for cropping in and everything else, but again, this 18.5 megapixels is plenty.
So, what are you trying to say?
All right, so the resolution on an 18.5, you know, your resolution size of your file is 5212 by 3472, which is big. I mean, it's big enough, right?
That's what she said.
Most of the time we downsize them anyway to put them on Instagram or Facebook or anything else because the files are too big to upload. So they're plenty big enough on an M9. Again, the M9 is a great starter camera for those who want to get into a Leica M system, digital M system anyway, full frame. Because again, I already told you can go with the M8 or anything else. Now, you may say, well, you haven't really talked about the 240, you know. Yeah, but the 240, yeah, sure, it was a step up from here, the step down from here. But the 240, you know, one of the biggest differences is it had a video feature. But who uses Leicas to shoot videos? I don't know anybody. You know, on YouTube, I don't see anybody shooting videos with their M cameras. Now with SL cameras and whatnot, it's a whole different monster, but that's another video. But we're talking about the M system here, so who shoots videos with these things, right? So the 240 was bigger than this, bigger than the M10. It was thicker, you know, because it had more stuff that had to pack into it, and so on and so forth. So, you know, yeah, I don't want to get into the 240. I went from the M9, skipped right over that, and went to the M10. And of course, there's M240 shooters out there who will go, "Oh, damn you! No, the 240 is a great camera."
Get the fuck out of here.
And I'm sure it was a great camera. You know, it's a Leica camera, right? But, you know, again, the video feature is just not needed in the M system. So anyway, my advice, find yourself an M9. If you got the money, find an M10. But the M9 is, you know, work that part-time job, a little extra, work some overtime, save up some money, get yourself an M9. They're a great tool, and because it doesn't have live view, it really teaches you about rangefinders and how to use them effectively, so that when you're, you know, skipping ahead to generations later, which will be a mix between, you know, the rangefinder and live view, and people get spoiled by live view and they forget how to use the rangefinder. But the rangefinder is cool. I mean, it's old school. It's, you know, it makes you feel like you're doing something fun. It's like the difference between driving an automatic car and a stick shift, you know, or a motorcycle. You know, they're more fun.
That's what I'm talking about.
So that's the way I look at my M9 anyway. So that was pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. Was, you know, here we are in 2021. Is an M9 still relevant 12 years later? Sure it is. And because it's a Leica, it kind of holds on to its cost, its value. You know, it's just like, you know, a 35 sphericals FLE Summilux here. It's an expensive lens. You know, it's $6,000, but I bet I could probably sell this for close to that, if not more, 10 years from now, because this is a super lens. You know, again, Leica products are like that. They hold their value very well. And but again, the bodies are just electronic stuff. You know, the lenses are where the real value is in these things. So if you want to get into a Leica system, the M system, I should say, because of course you could buy the CL or the Deluxe or, you know, any of these other, you know, lesser models. But they're not the M system. So if you want to get into the M system and you don't want to go with the M8 because it's a crop sensor and you need, you know, filters and UV and IR filters to get them to work properly, and, you know, you get a 50 but it's not really a 50 because it's a crop sensor and blah 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 blah, and the LCD screen's not very good, so forget the M8. You know, I'm sure those out there who have an M8 and they still use it are probably saying, screw you.
Hey, screw you.
Again, I'm going from my own experience. The M9 is a killer camera, even 12 years later, here in 2021. So that's doctor's advice. So, last thing I want to talk about is a little shout out for Luminar, the Luminar AI. They're my photo software editing tool that I use. Hey, they're only $89. $89, especially when you're spending money like this. $89 is nothing. It's yours for life. You download it, put it on your computer, and you never have to update anything again. Now, of course, you can update for free, and when they do have updates or when they have a complete upgrade to a whole new level, then you pay a discounted version because you're already a customer. But again, it's yours for life. You don't have to do anything more to it. It does all the same things that Capture One and Lightroom and, you know, all these others do. And if you want to discount even further than $89, because they are on sale quite a bit, but my own discount, I got a $10 link below. You get $10 off, a little kickback for me. So, with that said too, why don't you help me out, help to kind of get me out into the world a little further than just outside my front door, and subscribe to Modesty Photography, and subscribe to Camera Talk with Dr. Scott, and just subscribe to my channel because you're such a sweet person, right? And lastly, how about some thumbs up, because you know, the algorithm loves thumbs up. You know, it helps. They like comments, they like a lot of different things, but hey, I like to also show off the thumbs up girls. And that was about it. So, hey, here we are, or here I am, Leica Man in Vietnam. I'm stuck on lockdown because Ho Chi Minh City is getting like, I don't know what we were up to yesterday, I think 5,000 or maybe 7,000, I forget now, but it's a lot. People getting these. I got my vaccination just a couple days ago, so at least I'm taking the right step anyway, but you know, there's very few people have been vaccinated here in Vietnam, so wash those hands, cover your face, wear your mask, social distancing, don't ride in elevators with 28 people. You know, those fun overnight parties where everybody breaks out the plastic sheets and the Mazola oil, save that for another day.
What the fuck?
But anyway, so this was Camera Talk with Dr. Scott, and brought to you by Modesty Photography, where we're here to save you money, give you some tips and advice about photography, and especially you beginners and people on a budget. You know, what can we do? Look out for, you know, look out for, I said, for those who are into Leica. Maybe the Leica M11 was coming out this year, maybe November, maybe November 11th, 11/11. And this is year 21, so there's a 1 in there too, so maybe. So anyway, that's all I've got for you. So why don't you come on back next week? Because remember, you belong here. And thanks for dropping by. Thanks for listening to me talk about my M9. And if you're after one, good luck out there. And you'll be happy. You'll be happy you got one. So anyway, we'll see you in the next video. So take care. Bye-bye.
Here I am.